This is not what I'm hearing from the people of Iran. They're saying that, yes, we are under the siege of a foreign nation, but it is for the liberation of Iran.
In some way the government collapses. How hopeful are you about what comes next versus how concerned are you that it could kind of spiral into a bad situation?
There will be challenges. There are prices to pay. But the direction is good because it is not 1979 anymore. The world is aware of what is happening, and the people of Iran are well connected.
Islam will continue to be triumphant until there have been 12 Khulafa, all of them from Al
The
Quraysh.
God of heaven will set up a kingdom that shall never be destroyed. Nor shall the kingdom be left to another people. It shall break in pieces all these kingdoms and bring them to an end, and it shall stand forever.
This is my brother, my executor, and my successor among you, so listen to him and obey.
My kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, my servants would have been fighting.
Whoso obeys me obeys God. Whoever disobeys me disobeys God. Whoever disobeys my commander disobeys me.
The Lord said to me, You are my son. Today I have begotten you. Ask of me, and I will make the nations your heritage, and the ends of the earth your possession.
Two systems of government, two visions for life on earth. Whichever is true changes everything. This is Christ and Khulafa.
Welcome back to Christ and Caliphate. This is the podcast where we talk about current events in the Middle East and the Muslim world from a Christian worldview perspective, and we talk about things from the sort of biblical roots and worldview foundations of things as well. Right now, it's June 18th, 2025. We're on the 5th day of a basically full-scale war between Israel.
Actually, sixth. Let's try that again. Sixth.
6th day of a full-scale war between Iran and Israel. And today we are joined by Mansour Khajehpour, who is a pastor and Christian broadcaster from Mashhad, Iran. So why don't you fill us in on everything that's been happening from an Iranian perspective?
Well, hi, James, and hello, friends, whoever is following these podcasts. Thanks for inviting me. Well, there is a lot of things that are happening in these days, and it's been very painful 6 days. A lot of these nights I've been sleepless, following the news and with people and around the life of people. One of the stories that I want to share off the cuff right at the beginning is to pay attention to the details in this time of turmoil is both overwhelming and exhaustive, yet it is important. On the first day of the war, a woman who is a student at the school where I teach called along with her husband from Tehran, and she said that she is 4 months pregnant. And she said that I'm afraid that I will lose my baby. And she was in tears saying that all these loud noises of explosion and the challenges that have surrounded us are so terrifying. And she said, if I lose my child, I will kill myself. So, I mean, that's one of the stories, right? If we go through the pages of stories of mothers losing children, children losing parents, people losing hope, there are countless amount of stories, and there is no end to the catastrophe and the trauma that are associated with war and situations, uncertain situations like what we are in. But that is one side of the coin. There is a flip side to this. I have received more than what you can imagine personal messages, direct messages, and also general public messages in different platforms that people are celebrating the current war between Israel and Iran. And they are saying that finally, after 46 years of brutality of a regime that has challenged humanity in three levels, all three levels of local within the nation of Iran by persecuting and oppressing the people of Iran, of either minority people like Christians, Baha'is, Jews, or people like gays and lesbians, etc. Set aside our differences, okay? I don't want to talk about that. But number two, I mean, even Muslims, even the Shiite Muslims, there have been more Shiite Muslims killed by the Islamic regime of Iran than during the war between Iran and Iraq. They were killed in 8 years. All right.
Wow.
So that's in the local, at the local level. Number two, at the regional level, Iran has created a lot of tensions in the region, in the Middle East, through its proxies in places that you and I are well familiar with, starting with Iraq, going to Syria, going to Lebanon, going to Yemen, and beyond. The region has been in a turmoil for over 40 years now, at least the past 40 years. Now, with the challenges and the changes that have come in the horizon of the geopolitical situation in the region in the past year and a half, Hezbollah has been basically almost in a non-existent situation. Syria, the change in Syria, who could even imagine that this will happen?
Not even the most optimistic Syrian.
Not at all. Not even the Syrian. You got that right. I mean, you're kidding me. You got to be kidding me. A person who was fighting Americans now is sleeping with Americans. I mean, seriously. Now, I'm not saying that it's a figure of speech.
Yes,
so
it's
Sure,
poetic.
sure. We understand.
I don't want your program to be bombarded saying that nobody does.
He's Persian. He speaks in poetry.
Right. The big caption is politics breeds strange bedfellows, right? So
There you go. Thank you.
we're going to go with that.
Yeah, I mean, you have this former jihadi beaming,
Exactly.
shaking hands with the president of America.
Yeah. And then all the debts, the national debts are paid. And then the potentiality of having a strong economy is in the horizon. I mean,
Right.
all these things. I mean, so local within Iran, there has been 46 years of brutality in the name of common God, right? In the region, there have been an expansion of hegemony and hegemonization of the Shiite understanding of Islam over the region, and also oppressing others and creating a lot of tensions in the region.
Sure.
But the third level is internationally. And the international threat continues to be in existence even as of today. In fact, it's in escalation, in my estimation, because of the many sleeper cells that Iran has exported to the West, especially in the past 9-10 years. Not that it was not before that, but during the Obama administration, a large, massive group of people, it's been estimated that were exported to America, and also during this mass entrance of people coming from the southern borders into the United States. It's been estimated that many sleeper cells from places like Iran have entered the US and also the rest of the West in other countries that continue to be in existence. Now, with this kind of challenges, the people of Iran have received countless amount of messages, as I said, that are celebrating. Someone wrote this, James, on my Instagram message saying that, Brother Mansour, I hope that we won't die. But if the cost of the freedom of Iran is the death of myself and my family, let it be. A large group of people were fleeing Iran the night before when Trump announced that Tehran is no longer safe. Evacuate Tehran. It was 2 days ago, right?
Yep.
So a large group of people started going to the northern part of the nation by the Caspian Sea, and there is a long tunnel in the road called Chalus. In that huge tunnel, all of a sudden the traffic was jammed, right? So people got out of their cars, and it's all over in the social media. They started dancing and celebrating.
Yep.
I have seen videos. I don't know who these people are in the social media, that Israeli missiles are in the sky coming down, and people are drinking alcohol and singing and dancing over the rooftops saying, yeah, hit us and free us. So this paradox of emotions is what is happening in Iran. Apparently, the government of Iran has lost its credibility to the point that this war is not similar to the previous war that Iran was involved with. When the war between Iran and Iraq was taking place, I was a Christian, a member of my church in Mashhad, a young Christian. Yet, by the way, look at my cup. This is my wife's cup. I have my own too. When I was a member of that church, a young Christian, the war was happening between Iran and Iraq. And I, as a Christian, as a volunteer person, decided to join the Red Crescent and go and to the rescue of the people in war. I was in the war zone for 6 months and 13 days until I was wounded and was brought back. I was feeling I'm responsible to defend my country because it was under the siege of a foreign country. This is not the same feeling that the people of Iran are expressing in these days. This is not what I'm hearing from the people of Iran. They're saying that, yes, we are under the siege of a foreign nation, but it is for the liberation of Iran. It is to free us up and let it be. So this is the shortest answer that I could offer to your question.
So a question I have for you is that sometimes when we're optimistic about a situation, we tend to see the things we want to see. And that's certainly true for the Iranian regime right now.
Yeah.
And we also tend to be kind of connected to people who, share our sentiments in some ways. So obviously there are a lot of people in Iran who are celebrating right now. How mainstream do you think that actually is versus what kind of reaches us?
So there is no official study, especially as of 6 hours ago, that the internet is completely down for the entire nation. And it was announced by the Minister of Communications that there is no internet, zero. So, but then aside from the internet, it's really difficult as it is happening to evaluate and assess this, right? But what I can attest to is that Iranian people have already been fed up by the government for many years. They have been in the streets many times, but they have been defeated and through the mass killing or imprisonment, etc. Now, what's different this time is that the Israeli government started taking down, in addition to military infrastructure and bases, they have started taking down something that the people of Iran have started celebrating, that are associated with the first group of people, and that's the local people being arrested. The Ministry of Information and Intelligence Services have been hit. The local offices where people were arrested and taken into custody were hit. The people who were involved in the international injustice, like the one who ordered the Ukrainian airplane to be down, is hit. So then people of Iran have started seeing that, yeah, actually, there are some collateral benefits of this war. It's not just exclusively against the military leaders of Iran. It appears to be, but there are some benefits that we have started seeing. Like, for instance, here's a good one. For the first time ever, I've started hearing nationalistic slogans and words coming out of the mouth of the Iranian leaders. They never focused on the
Right.
nationalism.
Right.
They never cared about our identity as Iranians. They've always focused on the Islamic fundaments and also the propaganda of establishing the Islamic Caliphate, etc., all over, and building a mosque in the middle of the White House and all those rhetorics, right? That has been in non-existence in the past 6 days. The past 6 days, gradually and increasingly they've started building on, oh, yeah, we have another power. Let's talk about nationalism. And people are deaf to these empty words.
So I guess watching this, one of the biggest questions I have is, let's say, Ayatollah is lured out of Iran and kind of gets exiled, or he has a heart attack, or he's killed in an airstrike, or in some way the government collapses. How hopeful are you about what comes next versus how concerned are you that it could kind of spiral into a bad situation?
So it will be chaotic. We have some sort of opposition groups outside Iran and inside Iran, but there is no consortium of one voice among them at this time. Nonetheless, what is common between all of them is that none of them, they want the current dictatorship. Now, here is a word of optimism and hope. In 1969, when the Islamic Revolution happened, at that time we had social democrat groups, the Mujahideen Khalq, the Islamic militia group, and some Islamic groups also. They were all fighting. About 15 different major groups were fighting, and each of them were claiming, yes, I should be the power. The one who won the situation was Ayatollah Khomeini, with the rhetoric that he played literally in the last minute. He was not on the scene up until just about 10 months before the revolution, whereas other groups were fighting for 15 years already, right? So they paved the road and someone came and stole the ball. This is what is going to happen also in this situation. Now, is this going to be the best? No. There will be chaotic. There will be a lot of mass execution. There will be a lot of challenges. There will be challenges. There are prices to pay. But the direction is good because it is not like 1979 anymore. It's more the world is aware of what is happening, and the people of Iran are well connected, well educated, and well connected. Now, my hope, here's my prayer, all right? My hope is to see something that is not written word by word, but it is, I've started having a feeling and started reading in between lines. There is a large group of Iranians who have been educated outside Iran, super wealthy, entrepreneurial thinkers, strategists, well connected to different sources of trade and power, and they are very interested to reinvest on Iran. People who are big figures, I don't want to start because I don't want to lose a name, just listing a large group of names, are people who are super wealthy, big money, that they are very interested to rebuild Iran. And when they go, they will have a say to the politicians, because most of the politicians who are claiming the power, they don't have money. They have brain, but they don't have the tools for it. My reading is to see, I don't want to criticize. I want to say the importance of someone who has a good amount of money can contribute to the winning ticket, like it happened last year in the United States. This is what is happening for Iran. A large group of businessmen have started forming a group, an understanding of how to invest in the future of Iran. There will be billions of dollars of money injected into Iran to rebuild. What happened in the past 6 days is going to cost Iran tens of years to rebuild without enormous amount of money. Refineries are not small business. Refineries are being destroyed, right? Roads and airplanes and airports and all those things, right? So radars, you name it. But all of these, when there is a mass amount of investment, coming from within the Iranian community. I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the uh, dirty money coming from around the world, which there will be a catch on any of those. I can see a large group of Iranians who are towards their 50s, 60s, 70s, and they're super wealthy and they're very interested in investing and building the future of Iran. They will determine the future. So I'm not worried about who comes next. There will be a chaotic moment. We will go from bad to worse, but then we'll be picked up super quickly because there is a connectivity with the world and also a great deal of interest by the businessmen and strong businessmen around the world who want to reinvest in the future of Iran.
So, what do you think the likelihood of outside interference is in that reformation process? Like, we saw when Afghanistan fell,
Right.
The Chinese were right there, right?
Yeah.
You know, I don't see right now in America that's willing to, you know, I think America would be willing to invest in a process like that, of course. Um, but I think China's like extremely aggressive. Russia's
Yeah.
extremely aggressive, and they already are buying most of the oil exports that are coming
Yeah.
out of these countries. So, if a country like China were to come in, you talked earlier about the Ayatollah coming and stealing the ball. Like, what's stopping China, for instance, from putting a literal Manchurian candidate
Yeah.
in the mix and then stealing the ball at the last minute? Because I think looking at it from like we don't live in Iran, right? Like we live in Washington State. I have relatives in Turkey. They're afraid. There are people I know in Israel. They're afraid. There are people I know in Iran. They're all afraid. Um, but I think that the success of the military campaign has pushed the things that you've just said to the forefront, right? Like,
Yeah.
who will be the heir to Iran if the regime does actually fall? If they're actually able to pull this off, and what prevents um, negative traction?
Right. Russia does not have a lot of grounds in Iran anymore because of the past history. Iran and Russia have had a very nasty history before the Islamic Revolution came, and then especially before these 25 years ago till now, that Khamenei has started leaning heavily towards Russia.
Hmm.
Um, but Russia has become increasingly disrespected in the society. China, on the other side, even though there's not much happening, but China has taken a lot of strategic steps way in advance. 4 years ago, they signed a 99 years treaty agreement with the government of Iran that dropping that treaty agreement will cost us billions of dollars. So that might be, Iran still is on the hook. It's an international trade agreement. It's just a gentleman's handshake. It's a serious agreement.
Sure.
And it's a long process to get rid of that. I mean, coming out of that. It's a possibility. It's a very high possibility, but that would be a very dirty nightmare for us to think about it. What is also possible that breaks my heart is what happened in the 1980s in Afghanistan. At one point, a nation that was united after 4 or 5 years of catastrophes went into 16 different political groups. At one point,
Factions.
Afghanistan had 16 what they call it jorgay, or different political groups. Each of those 16 was claiming that the nation is theirs and all the other 15 were wrong. It's very possible that Iran will go through a major challenge of the Azeris in the northwest claiming independency, the Kurds doing the same, Baluchis in the southeast will do the same thing, Arabs in the southwest will do the same. So, and then that's ethnic possibility of challenges. Also, there are political challenges among. It is very possible that the military will intervene. A coup might take place. there have been conversations that an internal coup was forming. So they started calling Khamenei's son the Ben Salman of Iran. They started calling him the son of the current supreme leader as the reformist, saying that if he comes, unlike his father, he will bring reforms to Iran as Ben Salman did to Saudi Arabia, etc., which, in my opinion, that would be much worse than what his father was. He is a more stronger radical, Mujtaba is.
Yeah, like maybe more like the second Assad versus the first Assad.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Bashar was much worse than Hafez Assad.
Absolutely.
Absolutely right. So, this is. There have been some conversations that we know that the Sepah, the Islamic Republic military guard, or the guardians who have been affected heavily, will not have a place in the future of Iran because they are most hated. But it is a possibility that the army, the other branch of army, might start a coup. They have started sending messages that worries me, similar to what happened in Libya when Muammar Gaddafi came on board. So the possibility of the socialism, China, specifically China, affecting Iran is high. The possibility of separation based on ethnicity is high. It's very high. And also the possibility of an internal coup with a different version of Islamic government, but that is different, is high. My hope is that none of those will happen. A lot of people in the circle of friends that I have, they love the prince, the crown prince, but he's an amazing good man. He's an amazing good man, but he doesn't have enough leverage to lead the nation. He's an amazingly good man, wonderful man, but he's too soft to lead a traumatized nation. He's too American. He's so gentle.
You need someone with a little bit more grit.
Now he reminds me of from Afghanistan.
Ashraf Ghani.
Yeah, he reminds me of Ghani a
Mm.
little bit. At least
Living in Chicago, going to
right.
Afghanistan, but didn't do much.
Right. Taking the too Western of approach.
Yeah.
So one other factor that I'm very interested in here is when the Iranian Revolution happened, there were 50,000 Christians in Iran?
Not even.
Not even that.
Not even.
And what would you ballpark the number at now?
So, ironically, this morning we had this conversation at the Alliance of Iranian Christians, whom I am a board member, and we just estimated between 1 to 5 million. There are all sort of numbers are out there. I incline towards right in the middle, 2 to 3 million people.
And people question this stat all the time, but what I would say anecdotally, you go to any church in America right now, you'll find usually
an Iranian.
Yeah.
Almost without fail.
Right.
Everywhere you go.
Right.
So it's definitely, there's now a significant Christian population in Iran.
Yeah.
So my question is, how can Iranian Christians be a force for light and good in the future of Iran right now?
One thing, I'll tell you one thing that some Iranian Christian leaders did, and it's bad, and we should not do that first. And then I'll tell you the good.
That's great clickbait content.
The bad, the good, and not the ugly. The bad was 3 days ago when the Iranian government pressured 5 leaders of non-Muslim leaders in Iran, including Christians, Zoroastrians, and Jews, to sit down on a panel. I'll send you a photo of that. To sit down on a panel and issue a statement. Sadly and painfully, 2 of the 5 were dear friends of mine who were leaders of the Presbyterian churches in Armenian Presbyterian and Assyrian Presbyterian. When I read their statements, I almost puked. I don't know these guys anymore. What they said is not biblical, is not ethical, and it's not true. It's lies after lies after lies they have said boldly to, I don't know what to do. They have said lies after lies in favor of Islamic Republic and its government and against Israel, and they just said words of lies. I almost puked at what my dear friends, two of them are my dear friends for 40 years, they said. What a shame. That is what Christian community should not do. What should we do is, those are two individuals decided to sell themselves, or maybe at the fear of, maybe at a gunpoint they went. Maybe like Peter denying Jesus Christ 3 times and then repenting. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I cannot ask them right now. I have to wait. But then, what we did though, I am one of the founding members of the Synod of the Presbyterian Church in Exile. We are preparing a solid statement in condemning war, any war, because the Word of God doesn't support war, regardless of who the cause is. In my opinion, Islamic Republic of Iran is the cause. Israel reacted to the triggering situation. But war is wrong. And it is very clear in our statement. Number 2, we have clearly reviewed and verbalized 46 years of brutality of the Islamic regime in Iran, killing people and claiming the freedom of people in the 3 levels of local, regional, and international, continuing doing so. And therefore, we pray for change. We pray for the change of regime. I know there will be a cost. I don't ask God that may, at this moment, the supreme leader of Iran be killed. But I ask God, may the supreme leader of Iran will be arrested and put into a trial, like Saddam Hussein did.
Right.
I pray that all those brutality that killed many people and took away the life of many people and sent over 3 million people into an exile like myself against our will, to be able to go back home and build our nation. So that is my prayer. Now, in this midst, what we can do in the alliance of the Iranian Christians that we just had a meeting, contributed to the statement that we are about to release in 2 days. I said we have to state that we are not only praying, but also we are ready as a church, not just a local church, but as a church that is well connected globally. We are ready to step in to respond to the needs of the society. There are a lot of homeless people. There are a lot of people who don't have hope, don't have money, don't have a husband, don't have a life. We are responsible for them. On the first night of the Israeli invasion or attack or punishment of Iran, whatever you want to call it, I'm fine with it. A bomb was dropped over a military compound in Iran. One of the Christian brothers, who is a former Muslim convert from Islam, with his wife and his 2 children, they were living about 500 meters away. The shock wave of the explosion dropped a portion of his ceiling roof over his head, and he's killed. He's dead now. We have a responsibility as a church to that widow and her 2 orphans. These are the things, and not only them, but also in a nation that suffers the lack of access to medications, to aid. We have a responsibility, and we should fulfill that. And we should start collaborating with churches across the area that we are connected here in the US and elsewhere to gather some sort of support, because, James, I believe that Iran is at the verge of a major change, hopefully, in the next week or 2. My hope is that in the next week or 2, this will happen, that one way or another, the government collapses. Now, am I prophesying? Am I do I know anything? No, that is my wish. That is my dream. That is my hope. But how about if that happens? Are we ready to go back and rebuild? Are we ready to go and support those who are uh, facing a major catastrophe? This is a wake-up call for Christian community to get together, put our acts together, aside from the governmental support, aside from all those major NGOs that will step in. They will do that. But I've been in enough catastrophes, both in Iran and in the US, in earthquakes, in tornadoes, that I know how it works. We got to step forward. We got to get ready and be prepared and step forward as soon as there is a window open.
That has to be kind of crazy because you've been exiled from Iran for how long now?
29 years.
So is this the first time in kind of in memory that's felt like you might actually go get to see Iran again?
So I've been in Iran every day, 5 times a day, for your information, through satellite TVs. So, but it was just kind of one-way entrance. I've been
Right. You can't
certain.
taste the food through a satellite, right?
Exactly right. No, that is different. That's something you and I can do that in person. But you know what? I've been optimistic that some changes will happen before I die, and I've been hoping. At least that is it. That is it. Maybe it's my wish. Maybe it's not a dream. Maybe it is my wish. But probably I'm speaking out of my desires that this will happen in the next 2 weeks. But I hope it will. Nonetheless, one way or another, this is one of these two things that will happen. Either the Islamic government will collapse, either by the hand of the Chinese or the Iranian people or any of those scenarios that we talked, or painfully and so sadly, this whole thing will take a turn and Iran will do something big and the government will win the war against Israel and things will change. Then we have a bigger responsibility at that time. What we have seen, James, over the past 4 decades, the growth of Islamic oppression has created a stronger thirst and hunger for the gospel. And it will be even more because if, God forbid, the Islamic government defeats Israel and things changes for their good, then we're talking about a nation that is 100 years behind. China is not going to invest in Iran under Islamic Republic. If they're not in control, they are not going to give money to Iran. They are not in the business of giving money. They're in the business of taking away whatever they can.
Sure.
Russia does not have the power and the money to do so.
Right. They're depleted.
They have been depleted.
Yeah.
So now we're talking about if it happens with a government that is so isolated, then we're looking into another Afghanistan. We're looking into another Hamas operated area.
Right.
And that is what's going to happen. I mean, look at, we have already been about 100 years of infrastructure destroyed. Now, if there is no serious support, the government will collapse after this war because they don't have that much of power. They don't.
Yeah.
So in that situation, in this depressing situation, the church has even a bigger responsibility in sharing the gospel. So either way, I think we have a big responsibility. Sadly, I can see the writing on the wall. When Iran is free, there will be a larger exodus from any sort of ideology or God in the life of people because people are fed up completely. So the growth of secularism and also atheism will chew us up big time. And the church will suffer a lot from the indirect impact. But you know what? That doesn't discount the mission of the church. The mission of the church is to find the hungry and feed them with the word of God and also word of flesh.
I have so many questions, right? But the one that keeps kind of coming back to my mind is Here in the States, I've become painfully aware that Christians in the United States are just like everyone else in the United States, right? They're not going out, they're not seeking information on these things from valid sources. They are going to their preferred news outlet and defaulting to their political preference, and viewing everything through that lens. So, uh, I guess my question is, what would you say to like a Christian right now who's sitting in the States, um, doesn't know anything, right, about the conflict except for what they're hearing on the news? Like, I know that you bringing a lot of truth, but I also know, like here in Seattle, there are a lot of left wing Christians, right?
Yeah.
There are a lot of left wing Christians, and the right wing Christians are like viscerally responding to that, and being vocal in different ways. But when it comes to Iran, um, how do you point people towards like good sources of truth?
Well, usually news outlets do not give mere truth. They're always, either side, right or left. They will feed you, correct?
Yeah.
So I don't anticipate either. I'm just using only two of the news networks, right? CNN and Fox News. Neither of the two will release the full picture, and that is a sad situation. There's not much we can do. Uh, you can look at other news outlets. What we can do, though, is to become a part of the formation of the history. And instead of reading the news, let's write the news. The news is not just. They're not. They don't do justice. But we can become a part of the writing of the story. We can become a part of the writing of the history. How can we do that? By praying for the people of Iran, by becoming well connected and directly involved with the house churches inside Iran. Now, it is not at this time, it's not safe. I cannot put you in touch with anyone inside Iran. It's not safe for them.
Right.
But there will come a day that it is safe. It is going to be safe. Let me just say it loud and clear. Sisters and brothers in Christ, by God's grace and because of my 40 years of ministries, 28 of that from the United States, a big portion of that being a teacher, both on an TV and satellite programs, and also at a seminary with over 3,000 students. I am one of the very well-connected individuals, church leaders, who has direct access to over 300 network of churches, house churches inside Iran. I want you not to be overwhelmed by it. I want you to just invite you to think, how can you become a part of the transformation of Iran regardless of the loud noises that are around you? There are changes that are happening. Iran, once upon a time, was a part of the building of the walls of the city of Jerusalem. I'm talking about 2,600 years ago.
It's crazy. It's true.
It is time to reciprocate that. We are to be a part of the building of that wall around house churches and buildings and Christians who are, at this time, not free. But when they are free, they will be under the siege and the attack of secularism and a lot of other challenges like materialism. We have to build a serious wall of hope of it, and also support around these Christians by sending them sound doctrine, helping them by providing programs and teachings, learning from the nations that we have learned over the years that they have gone through similar experiences and have stood strong, and they have not gone rogue. These are some of the things that we can do. We can pray, we can build and support them theologically, and also by listening to them. Some of the audience maybe here, they have the gift of listening to one of these people. As soon as it's safe, I can get you connected, every one of your listeners, to 10 Iranians inside Iran whom you can be friends with.
That's great. That's a great note to end on. So, Mansour, thank you for joining us today, and thank you guys for listening to Christ and Caliphate. We will be back next time.